Well, the history goes pretty far back to the creation days. We have that creator. His name, he's the one that can move the sun. His name is Jonah. So the cultural things it tells about he created us and them, the monsters as well. It's not only Sasquatch. There's other different monsters out there that we've seen and know and heard, and other people out there seen different types of monsters as well. And all these things have their origin story that goes back to that time. Their population grew, ours started to grow as well, and they started eating us. They started hunting us down, taking the women and the children first, and they almost ate us all. They almost ate all of humanity all across this whole world at one point in time. And we had two warriors that changed the tide. We had a little extra help from the ones that fly on those silver shields overhead. Those are they like to say that they are our deity, and they like to also say they created us, but that's what they say. And I've seen them plenty of times too. And it gets stranger as you're trying to track these monsters, something else always comes along. So those two warriors, they went out all around these lands here. Every bit of these ridges and hills were all battle sites for our people, for the future. We took them, they almost killed them all. They almost wiped them all out. They had a bow and arrow with shooting out lightning. That was one of the creator gave us the weapon. And as soon as they had pity on them, they didn't kill them. They didn't wipe them all out. They drove them to a very small number where they would know that not to mess with us again. If you do, we're gonna wipe you out next time. So over time, a lot of us forgot about history. A lot of us forgot about our culture, our language, and these things are also coming back. Just like as darkness comes into the land, so do they. We made agreements in the past. Don't come to this side. You stay on that side of the ridge. But over time, the agreements are forgotten. And then new creatures come. They come and go, and now the agreements is forgotten. There's no more agreements now. They can come over here and look in our window. Try to take us as children. You will see big hairy arms, reaching in through the trailers, trying to get us.
So yeah, back in the 90s, 92, 98, through there, I used to live up in the mountains of Chester Mountains uh, every summer with my grandparents for the summer camp. We heard teeth and all that. So anyway, one time, well, not one time, but a couple of times we've heard roars. We've seen, you know, unexplainable things happen in the forest over there. We've heard things growling, trees shaking. My grandpa would, just say, just ignore it. It's probably somebody out there chopping wood or, something like that. But, I was a kid back then. I knew, that was nobody chopping wood or anything like that. You know? Especially towards the evening. Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, would it? For some person that they're roaring.
Yeah. But yeah, that happened out there towards the Whiskey Lake area. And there's been reports of the game wardens, the rangers going out there and investigating and seeing stuff, hearing stuff. But, back in the day, I guess, we didn't really have cell phones and stuff like that.
Have you heard a lot of whistling going around up that way at night?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, you hear whistling, you hear, brush, like someone's running in the brush or, but, like my grandparents always told us, don't go looking around for it because you'll find it, something might happen to you, That's what they always told us. My grandparents, well, they would talk about seeing different people around there, like, the area, the Bigfoot people, and, and for our religion, it's just like, they're, like I was just saying, they there, so leave them alone, they don't bother you don't bother them. Where I was, there wasn't no cattle, there wasn't no livestock, there wasn't no, it was just my sheep and, my grandparents, but, well, yeah, they never really did anything to my grandparents to where they're, talking about them breaking in or, they've gotten close, like walking outside towards the dogs, but, that's about it. My grandparents seen it, something big out there, but, they see how there was other people around the camp, so, my grandparents would always think, somebody like, a big guy out there.
Nowadays, how we deal with them is a lot of people, they go to the medicine man. The medicine man will tell them, don't pursue him, don't follow him, because if you do, it will affect your family members. And then not only that, if you're chasing him, pursuing him, wherever you lay down, you close your eyes, you won't wake up, but people will find you with a huge giant boulder on top of your head or on top of your tent, or they'll just take you. You'll never be heard from again.
But well, you seen footprints, you seen stuff like that in the mud as the ponds. When we go feed our sheep, they want to go to the water. We've seen that too. Oh yeah, when I was a kid, we seen a footprint to where I could put both of my shoes like in it, and it was still have like maybe about an inch and a half on both sides. Still. So right then and there, I knew that it wasn't either a cow or a person or, it was about, when I could remember, it was, like I said, I could put both of my feet in the footprint and, right there at the water of the pond. So when I was thinking, he's probably getting water, so I'm pretty sure that, they know where to look for the water, they know where to look for food. But other than that, the footprint was just, like a regular person's foot, but, running around those socks. But yeah, once we seen that one footprint, we sized up our sheaves. My grandpa put one of his shoes in there. Yeah, but that footprint was pretty big, though. A couple of folks there, the other sheep came, they heard big rocks being thrown at them. Like, when they were wood hauling, I guess, I've heard that maybe either throwing rocks or howling, like, not close to them, but enough to hear. And the people there would get scared, and they just hurry up and chop the wood and go. But that's mostly what I've heard, like, from my other cousin, the ones that live near the sheep camp there. They'd have rocks thrown at them, they were howling. People scratching on the window at night. Or no, I don't know if it's people or something scratching at night. We didn't have no vehicles. I think that's the thing, we didn't have no vehicles ruffling and driving all of this, scaring things, That's how we heard, like growling, hollering, tree knocking. It's because the reason why is because we were on horses, And sometimes the horses would get scared, like of certain places not to go. But, horses can sense a lot of things. I feel like I've seen a lot of stuff between, like Bigfoot and our tradition, like I don't really like talk about it, but I don't want to bring it up like how he said manifested. But if they want to be seen, they'll make sure you see them. That's for sure.
There ought to be a sign up here somewhere.
I would think.
It's perfect country for them.
Yeah.
I know I keep saying that, but
Yeah.
it just is.
Thought that was a bird for a minute.
Yeah, that's our bird. Or bird.
When we're on the other side, those guys are saying this side will be the easier way, you know?
Oh.
So I was like, oh. Okay, I looked at the map and I was like, damn, we're really close. We just turned around. But it's a mile from Whiskey Lake.
My goodness. Well, we went all the way over the mountain. What do you mean? Oh, you mean we needed to hike that when we were hiking on the road?
Where we were, we needed to come north more, back up on the ridge, that road. It's taking us all along the ridge to get us over here on this side.
That it should have been opened.
That's another sign. Another horse. This is the Achilles.
Well, there's almost.
Look at the bones. If there were canines of any kind, predators, they'd be chewing on these, but there's no evidence of that whatsoever. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, wow.
2 dead horses.
Yeah.
That one was not there yesterday.
I
was carried off. I'm positive.
Oh, there. Some live horses out there.
Yeah. I want to look at that one too and see if there's any sign of how it was killed.
Wonder if Mark Dobbs could tell us anything.
I can ask him. I mean, to me it's not obvious, but there is a twist here, but does the head twist that way on, the spine? I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm not that familiar with horse anatomy, so.
Same here.
The only thing I know is this was not here yesterday.
And you can even tell that from the way the grass is right under it.
Right,
I mean,
the grass isn't growing up around it yet.
No. No, it was clearly laid down.
The question is why?
Why exactly?
Fresh. Like Adam said, fell down the grass. Navajo, unusual shit you find doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. I found it so like the bones were white, but there was still red on the bones. Yeah. Interesting.
The big thing, you look for the natural suspects, mostly would be canine predators or even bear.
Yeah.
They all have sharp teeth, so you would see those kind of marks on them. And porcupines leave bones.
Yeah.
No gnawing whatsoever.
No, I didn't see any gnawing.
No sharp claw, no sharp teeth marks.
I was looking for that, and I was looking for the big flat teeth marks. I didn't see those.
Well, and you probably wouldn't.
You see signs from the scavengers too.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, there was no scavenging. That's another sign. Usually a Sasquatch kill, scavengers won't touch them.
In the 90s, my great grandma, she had a visitor. This is Lima Valley area. So, this thing is trying to get in, trying to open the door, rocking the whole trailer. This is a long trailer. So it was rocking it, and she was saying in Navajo, wish that? That means come in. She thought it was somebody. It was 3 a.m. Boom, 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 the door. She's trying to tell them to come in, nothing. So this was going on for a week, and she told my uncle. She called him. He was in Moab, and You know, he hung up the phone. He drove all the way down. He got there in the noontime. He went straight to sleep. And she's like, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to sleep during the day. You know, you only sleep at night." And he told her, he's like, "You know, I'm 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 going to sleep right now so I can see who's visiting you, who's coming by. That's why I'm going to sleep right now." She said, "Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay. I'll keep it down." So, you know, the sun went down, and he had a bull mastiff. Her name was Suma. She was a really great babysitter. You know, she watched over us, and while we slept, you know, she was a great dog. So he trained that dog to hunt skinwalkers. So that dog wasn't afraid of nothing. So they have more stories on that. But so he got that dog. He took Suma into the closet with him. So he went to the closet, and he sat her down. He probably cracked the closet like an inch, you know, just to see. And he opened the window. He opened the window all the way, and he was right in front of that, you know, just diagonal from that. So he, you know, he was waiting there. He was waiting and waiting, and he felt a cool breeze come through the window and hit him, and he fell asleep. He said he didn't know how it happened. He said he just dozed off, and he said he was hearing something in the window, you know, something struggling to crawl in. And Suma was headbutting him. She was headbutting him and licking his face, you know, just so she was trying to wake him up. And he finally got up. He came to, and he looked at in the crack of the door, and he said that he saw the most scariest, ugly, black-haired gorilla trying to crawl in through that little trailer window. He said he couldn't fit. He can barely fit his head in. They took his head out, and he fit his arm in. And he was trying to fit his head in. He couldn't fit his other side, the shoulder in. And he was trying to crawl in, grabbing the rug and the walls, scratching everything. And he realized what he was looking at. He jumped back and he yelled, you know, like in shock. Something huge and hairy was trying to crawl in through the window. He grabbed the Suma. He kicked open the closet door. He threw her. And he said she just turned to a missile. Went straight for that gorilla-looking thing. He said it was black hair. So Suma, she tackled him, went right back out the window, and he ran out the closet, right? And he got into the hallway, and he was trying to still come to. He was falling everywhere, you know, down the hallway. Boom, 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 boom. He made it finally through the living room to the door. When he made it to the door, he said he saw that gorilla-looking thing and his dog roll underneath the truck. And they said he finally, you know, was ready. He was okay now. He heard his dog yelp. His dog crawled out, and by the time he looked at his dog, he looked, you know, with underneath that truck, right? So he said this thing was running very, very fast. He said it was unnaturally fast. You know, I'll say it that. He said it was going down. He had his 30-30 on him, rifle, and he knew where that high point, the hill, where it's gonna go up and go down to a really deep wash. You know, it was a really deep cut wash. So he set his sight on that hill. Then as soon as it was gonna reach that hill, he knew. He let go around, and he said that bullet, he heard it connect. He said it was a loud thud. And that bullet, he said, it was on fire, and it was whistling, spiraling up into the air. And he said that gorilla was screaming. He said the most horrible scream he ever heard. And it was collapsing. He said he would hear it running, boom, 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 and then boom, it would get up and it would scream. And then he said, tell you couldn't hear it. He just went away, ran west to Navajo Mountain. So that Navajo Mountain is also its home as well.
I think these horses want us to jump on and ride them. Look, there's a horse doing what they do.
It's what they do best.
She said they run around right here too. She said sometimes they run this road and they got halfway and she got chased by Sasquatch.
They scream right in this little valley.
Yeah, they said they go around. They even watch them in the windows, and they even built a structure close to their home ones.
That's it. So we need is a recorder here.
Well, we could put one out. We could put one on that.
Right up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could if you want to do that.
Sure. This horse wants to kick my ass, though. Okay. Oh, I see. We can put one right on top there.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Ridiculous. I just brush and comment. Tell me I haven't heard.
So this is where our spy camera is. I'll fucking see if we get to spy on anything or hear anything. Yeah, so you do your research, you find what areas the creatures are reported in most recently. You go to those areas, you scout, you look for sign. Then you pick a spot to place your spy camera, and you aim it at what you think is the most likely direction where the creatures were. If they're coming around a habitat, you'll aim it at the habitat. The logical thing to do would be to go out there with hundreds of spy cameras and just blanket the area with them. So if anything moves, you've got it. Well, we don't have the resources for hundreds of spy cameras. We've got a handful of spy cameras, and so we have to be very strategic in where we place them. Luck has to strike. I mean, it has to be with you. The odds of having one camera aimed in the exact right direction when the creature happens to come by on his erratic behavior pattern is, those odds are astronomical. You know, that doesn't stop us from going out there and seeing what we get. I guess if I ever wondered what snow and rain looked like in infrared, well, I have my answer. I certainly recorded that. I can tell you what the sunrise looks like on Twin Buttes. But no creatures yet. Now, we haven't given up. It's always interesting. It's always very exciting when you're looking at the footage for the first time, because you're driven by that thought. Maybe this is the footage. Maybe this time they're gonna walk in front of my lens. Well, this wasn't the time. So far, we have not bagged our quarry. We keep looking though. No giving up.
Well, physical characteristics of the Sasquatch are generally, they look ape-like, but they walk like humans. I should back up a little bit. Not quite like humans. The gait is different. Where we walk in sort of a herringbone pattern with our feet out, that's for balance. The Sasquatch walks with his toes in. So that's a very different mechanical structure in their hips and legs. Size-wise, the adults average anywhere from 6 feet to 9 feet height. There are some exceptions reported. Outside of those ranges, smaller, of course, they're probably juveniles. Their limbs proportions are different than ours. The forearms are longer than ours, and their thighs are longer, but the shin part of their leg is shorter. So it's a different mechanical structure than humans. They move similarly, but they'll also move on all fours sometimes, like gorillas and chimps do. That's a knuckle walk. It's what they term it in anthropology. So they're mostly covered with hair, all except around the eyes and the nose. Usually you don't see the ears. Sometimes they have a conical head like a gorilla. Sometimes they don't. You know, that could be a male or female thing. We don't know, because the Patterson Sasquatch had a conical head and it was a female. So again, these are things that are still open questions. Yeah, I know, right? Start getting all these phone calls I don't recognize.
Yeah.
Said what?
Turn around.
Yeah?
You're gonna see a tire on this side. To the 4th of a mile, you're gonna go in, park from where they are to this pine. She said, off the road, they found 2 structures, bigger one, the small one. They walked up on a baby lane in the small one.
Let's go.
And the big one was watching them in the trees.
Let's go.